Hey guys, I'm Venus Monique from the hit crime drama Vindication, and you guys should definitely make sure you're catching the Maurice Brown Show on Roku TV.
Yeah! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Show. We have a very special guest today, an actor and director who is known for the Vampire Diaries, NCIS, and most recently, A Father's Legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Maurice Brown Show the very talented actor, Jason Mack. What's up, Jason? How are ya?
What's going on, Maurice? Thanks for having me.
Man, I appreciate you being on the show, man. I tell you, as entertainers, dealing with the pandemic has been a very interesting journey. From the day it started. I mean, I'm a stand-up comic and an actor. You're doing the whole nine with it. So this protocol during the pandemic, what's it been like for you?
For me, I haven't been on any sets during the pandemic, which, I'm kind of thankful for. I think now it's a little bit different than especially at the beginning. At the beginning, it was just people were had no clue what to do. And it was very kind of restrictive. And so I remember someone I knew, I think maybe it was on Facebook or something, but they were like, are you comfortable? This was like in May or June. It's like, are you comfortable being on a set right now? And I was like, no, not at all. And not as an actor, but also definitely not as a producer. And because I didn't feel confident that I would be able to, really protect everyone on the production, which is, what I think a big part of that job is. And I think now it's a little different. I think that there's, more clarity in what's going on. But even that, there's another run of productions being shut down as we speak because of, multiple tests and which makes sense with everything in the current state of everything in the country.
Yeah, it's right when you think it's over, it's not. So this has been really an interesting journey. But that being said, God is watching over us and he's keeping us safe and intact. You look like you're healthy. I'm feeling great. I'm thankful. But your film, A Father's Legacy, which came out, I believe it came out on Father's Day, but I watched it, and it stars yourself, of course, and Tobin Bell, and you direct it as well. Excellent film. Tell us a little bit about A Father's Legacy.
Yeah, so the film, it centers on this young man who essentially goes out in search of his father that he never knew. Makes some really, really bad decisions along the way, and ends up in the woods at this essentially pond house, this house in the woods of this old man, and holds this old man hostage in his own home. And these two learn about each other and kind of learn about each other's past. And really what I wanted to do was, both these men are very flawed. They're both messed up. They both made some mistakes. And I just wanted to show that they're still redeemable, no matter the age, no matter what's kind of gone on. And sometimes in life, there's things happen to us and then things happen because of us, right? Like sometimes we can't control the hand we're dealt. And then other times it's through our decisions, we're kind of dealt certain hands. And we kind of looked at that from both ways and the response to that, but it definitely touches on that father-son relationship and what does a father mean to a son and a son to a father.
So what motivated you to do this film, Jason?
For me, this film really comes out of one of the toughest periods in my life was when my father passed away. And this was back in like 2015, and it was unexpected. It wasn't like this was something that we saw coming. It was through complications with a surgery. And that really rocked me, and which I had never lost anyone close to me before. And I remember I lived in Los Angeles. My family lives in South Carolina. So it's not like I'm seeing my family every week for a family dinner or anything like that. It's just, it's phone calls. Right. And The only thing that was different about my day-to-day life was that there was one person that I couldn't call, but there was this just hole I felt like in me because I lost one of my earthly guardians. And what's funny is my dad, he probably would have preferred I was a banker, and I have a degree in finance. He probably would have preferred that I went and got a job at like a bank somewhere that's stable.
Yeah.
But that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell stories, and to tell a Southern parent that you're going to move to Los Angeles to be an actor is I can only imagine what they hear. But I knew he loved me, and I knew that no matter what, he supported me, and I could call him and whatever issue I was having, like he would support me in the best way that he could. And so after he passed, I just really started exploring like why is that father-son relationship so important to me? Because even before then, like father-son stories always got me, like movies or TV show, like there's a father-son arc. I was like, it just got me. And I really started exploring that. And a lot of those ideas and feelings that I dug into in that time period are really the themes of this film. And what does a father mean, and what does it mean to carry on a legacy? What is our legacy? And then, redemption and kind of choosing our path in this life.
Yeah.
So it definitely, like, there's a lot of me in there. And what's crazy is, Maurice, we shot this film in 2018.
Wow.
Okay. So it was 3 years ago. And so even kind of rewatching the film now as we were preparing it for distribution, now that it's out, I realize even more so how much of me was in it, because in the writing that I didn't even realize at the time. They were just things that it wasn't conscious, but it was just like these things that I was feeling that was in my heart that ended up on the page and then translated out through the story.
Yeah. It's quite amazing, the impact, and we were talking a little bit about this before we came on live, the impact a father has on a son. I know myself personally, I started doing radio in my early 20s. I'm 57 now, so I'm going way back, but my dad was a big supporter of me in radio. I mean, if anybody supported me, it was him, and he passed away in 1989. And, dude, I just kind of lost my direction just because he wasn't there to kind of encourage and support and point the way, and I kind of got out of it. Of course, I made my way back to media and acting and comedy and all that stuff. But it took, I took a big step away.
Yeah.
Just because his absence had that much of an influence on me.
Yeah,
I definitely understand.
Yeah, and I remember that time because it was like, I probably in the months after it, like I would sit at home and I would want to write. I would want to do something creative, but I couldn't get off the couch. So it's like, and I was still going to work. I was still, doing what I needed to do, but it was like I couldn't, like, and then I was like beating myself up because I'm not creating something or writing. And then I had a friend, and I was like kind of irritable, and because I have high expectations of myself. And I remember I met up with a friend, and I was sharing that with him. I was like, man, I'm just like, I'm irritable. I'm getting in fights with people close to me. And he was like, your dad just died. Like, it's okay, man. Like, you have to process it, and it's going to take some time. And when he said that, it just made a lot of sense. And I think a lot of it is, and this is something that I do think is a theme in the film, is as someone who grew up in the South, a male who grew up in the South, and I played sports. I was a big tennis player. You're not really supposed to feel certain emotions, especially not publicly. It's like, well, crying is weakness, and so, usually, so then what happens is you kind of replace that with anger. And I noticed that, like in the grieving process, especially, is like, a male coming from the South, a young male, is like, you have to feel, you have to be open, you have to talk about these things, and you have to acknowledge these feelings. And that was really the turning point when he when he shined that mirror at me and it was like, oh, it's okay that I felt this way. It's like, that
Yeah.
was actually a moment that I started getting free. And not that I wasn't sad or I wasn't feeling these things, but it was like, it was okay,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then, and that's when literally I started crafting this story.
Well, you're from South Carolina. I'm from North Carolina, and so I understand the mindset of not crying and not showing weakness, and it's the Bible Belt, so there's a certain level of I don't know, morality there that you don't get from other parts of the country. I don't think, but let me ask you something. Being that we do have similar backgrounds, even though you're quite a bit younger than myself, you may be able to offer a perspective response to this. But why do you think, Jason, it is so difficult in 2021 in our society today for fathers to stay committed to their families?
I mean, I can only kind of give what I think my perspective is. And this comes from me, is like the only thing I'm a father of is to a 1.5-year-old puppy. So, that's my experience. But like
Yeah.
in talking with people from the film, a lot of people have come up and they're like, hey, like, I didn't have a father presence, or,
Yeah.
it's like, or like, the character that I played in the film, Nick, it's like, they're like, I see my son in that character and he doesn't have a father figure. And so, I think part of it is I think a lot of it is generationally passed down. And
Yeah.
so there's these, you have this guy in the movie who didn't know his father, and
Yeah.
there's a big hole in him. And so he's making these decisions that are not very good. And when you look at it, it's like, well, is he going to leave his kid without a father?
Right.
And so it's like, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And there comes a point to where you have to break the cycle. And I don't think it's, any different. And we look at like, addiction and alcoholism, and how, that's something that, can be passed down. And it's like, how is that kind of broken? And so, I think it's every time somebody does step up and does commit, whether that's in a marriage, in a relationship, or just as a parent, then I think that there's potentially a cycle that could be broken. But I also think that there's something to be said for, and this speaks to my athletic background, is to, I had a lot of coaches along the way who were like father figures to me. And and they were investing in me as an athlete, but whether they knew it or not, they were also investing in me as a person, because
Yes.
a lot of my work ethic I learned from them. Right? It's like, well, hey, you want to be better? It's like, you might have to get up at 6 a.m. and go hit serves at the courts before school.
Yes.
And as a 15, 16-year-old, you know what I mean? And so it's like, hey, maybe you're not going to go party all weekend, but you're going to go play tournaments and stuff like that. So it's like, what do you want, and what are you willing to go to give up for it and go get it? And and also just, like when you fail, you could look at that as losing. It's like in sports, you're going to lose, and so you have to get back up. And so
Can I have a loser? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that coaches, mentors at like Boys and Girls Clubs and Boy Scout leaders, and these can all potentially fill these gaps for maybe these fathers that aren't present, and that can help to close that kind of circle that keeps repeating itself. I mean, as it's like, you've probably seen this a little bit more than me, like, like you're a few years older than me, but it's like at this point, I mean, I get it already. Like, there's a college student who went to the college I went to, Wofford College, who reached out to me because he saw the film, and I'm like, reading his script and giving him feedback and stuff like that. So it's like, and I'm sure you get that from younger comics or radio. It's like, you probably get like some teens or some early 20s. It's like, yo, Maurice, I see what you're doing. Like, do you have any input? And it's like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
That's, that mentor role. Like, who knows what kind of father figure kind of role that's playing, whether they have a father or not. So that was kind of a long kind of tangent, but I don't think it's a simple thing. I think it's just kind of being there.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because this is how powerful I have a friend back in North Carolina when we were growing up, and he said that It's funny, tragic, and but powerful at the same time. He said, my dad used to get drunk every day, but you know what? He was there. And I thought, that it was funny, and then wow, impactful. Like, the guy was at least in the house. At least he could see him every day. And that meant something to him. So I think it's a powerful thing, as well as your film, A Father's Legacy. And ladies and gentlemen, I highly advise you to see this film. It was directed by Jason Mack, who's also the lead actor, as well as Tobin Bell. How can fans see A Father's Legacy, Jason?
So it's pretty much like speaking at home. Anywhere you buy or rent a movie at home in the U.S. and I believe Canada, like you can do it. Whether it's iTunes or Apple Movie, Apple TV, Apple whatever, Amazon. There's so many. Vudu. I believe it's on a VOD as well. So like literally anywhere somebody can buy or rent a movie online, it's pretty much there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well done film, and it also stars Tobin Bell. What was it like working with Tobin Bell?
He was amazing. I mean, he was, this wasn't a big budget. This wasn't like, we didn't have a ton of money to go make this film. It was very much a passion project. Nobody got paid what they were worth, but they believed in the story. And I got this casting director, Matthew Seafick, and it was the best thing that I could have done, because we're like, well, we might as well take our shot and go out to some agents and managers in LA. And Tobin came back on a list of people who might be interested. And I was like, well, this is really interesting because he's known for Saw, billion-dollar horror franchise. And but his voice has such like a weight to it. And then you look at his face and you're like, this is a dude who has lived a life. It's not some pretty looking older actor. It's like, nah, dude, this guy's got wrinkles and creases and he's lived. And when I met with him, the first time I met with him, I knew it wasn't me seeing if he was right for the role. It was going to be if he trusted me, not only as a director, but as an actor alongside him. And we just kind of hit it off. And what I learned about him was, he's a craftsman. He truly cares about his craft. And even though he's done so much and been around for so long and been in so many things, he just wanted to tell this story, and he put his all into it. Like, I never got the impression, oh, this guy's mailing it in, or he didn't do his work. No, like it was, tons of questions about the script, and even scenes that he wasn't in, he wanted to understand. And then when we finally got on set, it was just like every moment he was so present. He was just there. He was with me. And as a director, I mean, that's all you can really ask for from actors. And as an actor, just to work with him and do scenes with him was just, such an educational experience for me. But I mean, he was just truly just meant for the role.
He was very powerful. You also were very, very effective in your role as the lead actor. You're both lead actors in the film. It's centered around your two characters. You both were very good. And I think that Tobin's character did require one of real seasoning as a man. And he was along in years, and he had seen a lot of things. And his face, his ability to portray the look of someone that's, as you stated accurately, seen it all. What I mean? He's like seen so much in life. He was generally, and I have a tendency to give too much away. I don't want to go too far, but he was. I would love for fans to see the film, because it's very impactful, it's powerful, it's emotional, and it can draw some tears if you really sit there and watch it intently. It's a very strong film, and I want people to see it. I pray that a lot of folks will find out where A Father's Legacy is. I think it's definitely a film for the family. And as I say that, Jason, your film it's definitely a family film / faith-based, even though there's not necessarily any real reference to the Bible or anything like. Not that it even has to be faith-based. But do you think that faith-based films are starting to attract more secular viewers today?
Depends on the movie,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think, I think that there are some really wonderful, I think probably the two biggest filmmakers in this faith space are the Kendrick brothers, who've
Yeah.
done, Courageous, War Room, and all that. And they make a very specific type of film, and they don't make any apologies about it. They're like, they're giving you a positive faith-based message. There's no question. And then you
Yeah.
have the Irwin brothers who did, I Can Only Imagine, and they're working with a lot more mainstream stuff and adapting like some real life stories. And I think that those are reaching bigger audiences because they're well-made movies.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think some of the issue with a lot of the genre, if you will, is you have to decide what's more important. Is delivering your message more important than telling your story? And
Yeah.
I think if your goal is to deliver a message, I think you're going to have a much harder time. I think if your goal is, hey, you know what, I'm going to tell a story. And within this story, you can deliver your message. I think that's where you're going to have the most impact. And I think that's the faith-based filmmakers that resonate the most. I think that's the mindset they have. But when you just start preaching in a film, I don't think you're going to reach any secular audience. And that was something with my film. There's faith in it because it was real to me. But my intention was never to make a down the middle faith movie because I wanted people on the fringes to see it. I wanted these to be two real people. There's no pastor in a pulpit preaching. I wasn't going to do it. There was no way I was going to do it. I wanted to be as real and grounded as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I think Jason, and you alluded to this a bit earlier in the conversation, but I think the biggest hurdle that family/faith-based films have to clear is the budget aspect of things, because I'll use your film as an example. Great script, great acting, right? And the scenery or backdrops that you used were very natural, didn't require necessarily a lot more than that. I mean, the film could stand on its own, but what needs to happen, in my opinion, is that if you look at the monetary availability for a faith-based film through all these mega churches that are around, where you got these pastors riding these chartered jets, all over the place and so forth. And look, I mean, do what you do, but there's a lot of money available to contribute to a faith-based, project. You mentioned the Kendrick brothers. I could throw the Irwin brothers out there as well, and there are some other fine, talented faith-based directors and producers out there that can't really get their stuff out because of the lack of in the budget. So, and that's what I think is the biggest obstacle. Because like you said about your film, it's not like you don't have to be in a pulpit. Just tell a story. Just tell a life story. But we have to get more eyes on these films. And I think that's the biggest hurdle right there.
And that's the challenge is it's funny, you kind of look at the Irwin brothers and the Kendrick brothers, and they have two very different trajectories. And the Kendrick brothers, they just did it their way. Yeah. They started with, I think it was a Flywheel, and it was very, very low budget. So. And then it was Facing the Giants, which was still very low budget and using very much local resources and a lot of church members and stuff like that. I think Courageous, they really started expanding on the scope. But, they were kind of self-built a little bit. And I think they come from a much bigger church. But, there is that business side of things, right? Like you can only put so much money into movies that don't make money before the money's going to run out, right? It is a business thing. The Irwin brothers, a little bit more studio route and this is just outside perspective, right? But I remember they did October Baby, and a friend of mine was in it, Jason Berkey. And I remember it was kind of a small hit at the box office. And most people wouldn't even know about this movie, but it was really wonderful filmmaking. They had John Snyder in it. And it definitely made some waves money wise. And, now they've got their Kingdom banner over at Lionsgate. and they're adapting. They did I Still Believe, which was the Jeremy Camp story.
Yes.
And they've got some other things in the works. And I'm wondering, I can't remember if they're doing the Kurt Warner biopic. Remember Kurt Warner, the Arizona Cardinals quarterback?
Yeah, the Kendrick brothers are doing that one. Yeah.
What was that? Is that the Irwin brothers?
Oh wow, you may have me on that one.
I think
One of those
Irwin.
brothers are.
Because the only reason I say that is because the Kendrick brothers tend to do like just their own stuff, whereas the Irwin seems to adapt some true stories a little bit more. But I we could both be wrong. It could be some other third person, because Kurt Warner was very, very mainstream. But it's just it's like, how do you let people know about the movie? How do you get it out there? And it's it's interesting because every now and then you have a God's Not Dead, which just makes waves and tons of money at the box office and pretty much built PureFlix. Yeah, man, it's interesting. It's it's tough. It's tough to get the budget and to make the right movie to reach a big audience. And I think most faith-based films they get the budget that's right to meet the audience, which is already the faith-based audience.
Yeah.
And so they want to make sure that they don't kind of, isolate them, which is tough. It's tough.
It's really tough. You were blessed to get a guy like Tobin Bell, and you've got some acting chops under your belt as well, and you guys were able to make it happen. But because the other thing about it too is, from the faith-based world, is not only the budget bleeds into other areas. Like you want to make sure that you can get quality actors and involved. Everybody needs to be quality, and that cost. Yeah. And it's not every day that you can get an actor on a Tobin Bell's level to come along and say, listen, you know what? I just believe in what you're doing, and don't worry about my paycheck. I just want to do the film. It doesn't happen that often, and so you're dealing with that aspect of things. So. But I think that we're getting there. I think that it's coming to a point where I think a breakthrough is right around the corner, where it's going to go to another level. Because my personal feeling is that secular viewers, because of the content, the improvement in script writing, and the willingness to tackle subjects that are not, as you say, the typical in the pulpit preaching guy, just script writing based on things that happen in life that aren't so pretty. And we've got a lot of projects out there in the faith-based world that are starting to get into these type of things, and secular viewers are watching that. I always say this on every show, but Vindication is an example on PureFlix, a faith-based crime series that you think is NCIS or Criminal Minds when you're looking at it, and then you realize, oh, whoa, wow, these guys are actually going towards the light, and it's subtle. It just kind of grows on you. And you can't hit people over the head with your beliefs. Yeah. You can't take a Bible and hit them over the head with it, because they're not going to listen to you. So you just have to be more realistic and authentic and down to earth. So we have to meet people where they are, Jason, is the bottom line. And your film definitely does. I want to ask you this before we get out of here. What advice can you leave with young actors and actresses that are out there that have decided, you know what, I'm going to make this my career. I'm going to be an actor. What kind of advice can you leave with them?
I think I have two things. One is you just got to act, and you got to, whether it's student films, low budget projects, and always make sure it's somewhat reputable. But it's like you got to make your mistakes. You just got to get time in front of the camera. And then my recommendation, I tell every actor this, and very few listen, but it's like you gotta write something. Write a little 3, 4, 5-page script, shoot it, edit it, and so you can see the whole process. Especially if your goal is to be in this medium and you want to use film and TV, to be an actor. I think it's really important to understand the entire process, because we can get very, very focused on me, because I'm in the box, right? And you kind of like you kind of blow up your own worth a little bit. But what you realize when you really look at the whole process, from the writing stage to the filming and all the things that go into it, especially the editing, is it makes it less precious. And when you make something less precious, it takes a lot of the pressure off. And then you can just perform, and you're not necessarily worried about perfection. Because if you're worried about perfection, then you're probably trying to perform. And if you're performing, it's not really that real. So, you know, I think to demystify the process is write something, shoot it, and then edit it. And I always get this response: well, I don't know how to edit. Well, it's like Adobe Creative Cloud is $50 a month. And you can do YouTube videos and learn all you want. But it's like, it's amazing how many people are like, I don't know how to edit. And it's like, well, okay. Yeah, there's a lot that I don't know, but, you know, we got to figure it out.
You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out, and that's great advice, Jason. It's like you have to be proactive in what it is that you want to accomplish, whatever it is. It's like, there's a lot that you don't know. Well, you got to find out and then go tackle it and figure out how to make it happen. And you know, I couldn't agree with you more on that. That's great advice. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with actor Jason Mack on the Maurice Brown Show, talking about his recently released film, A Father's Legacy, which you can see on many different platforms. I would imagine maybe Prime, Amazon are definitely two platforms where you could see A Father's Legacy. It also stars Tobin Bell. And also want to throw this out as a program reminder. Coming up tomorrow at 1 p.m., we've got T.C. Stallings, who was in Courageous and War Room, as we mentioned, those two films by the Kendrick brothers.
Yeah.
He was also in My Brother's Keeper and God's Compass. And then on the following Tuesday at 5 p.m., it's going to be comedian Michael Jr. on the Maurice Brown Show. So you want to check that out. And if you've been watching and you like this, it's like you've enjoyed this interview, then like it and share it, and then subscribe to the Maurice Brown Comedy Channel on YouTube. And then, Jason, also, how can fans follow you on social media? Great
question. I'm living that 90s life, Maurice. I don't actually have Instagram or Facebook. You can just go to my website, www.imjasonmack.com. And I'll just post stuff here and there. But yeah, man, I'm living the 90s life. Got a website.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Sounds good to me. And folks, if you came in on the end and you missed it, you can watch the entire thing tomorrow on Roku TV, the Creative Motion Network, under the Maurice Brown Show series library, and you'll see Jason Mack right there tomorrow around about 12 or 1 p.m. You can see the entire interview if you missed it. Once again, Jason Mack of A Father's Legacy on the Maurice Brown Show. Jason, thank you so much for being a part of the show, and may the peace of Christ be with you and your family, brother.
Thanks, Maurice.